Chapter 206. After waiting for the aquatic monsters to gather at his feet, he counted the number of troops. It seemed that no one was missing, and he was ready to do it. Kangaroo, seeing this, was stunned. He now understood that these were all subordinates of his king. Kangaroo was sure that this was not the king he knew. He gritted his teeth and cursed silently, but dared not say anything. The king's cold and ruthless voice echoed. "So you have all arrived." Then he paused, his eyes looking down at his tentacles. Then his two tentacles suddenly thrust into space, the sound of shattering glass ringing in the ears, stirring up two clouds of white smoke. Open! Spiritual tide. The sea beasts below closed their eyes, relaxed their bodies, and began to enjoy the first drops of spiritual power falling down. The spiritual power poured down more and more, becoming denser and denser. A large group of monsters were silent, as were the sea beasts and exotic beasts of this continent. They all wanted to concentrate every breath of theirs to absorb the omnipotent spiritual power. The Dark King stood tall under the reign of spiritual power, like a god. At this moment, who would dare not obey his command? Even if he didn't need to use his power to control, the exotic beasts would completely submit to him, because he had made a huge contribution by bringing this spiritual tide. It should be known that this spiritual tide took place in vast space. The creatures under the Earth's atmosphere could only receive a small amount of spiritual power, while the high-level creatures who knew how to tear open space and connect it with cosmic space were too few, only countable on one's fingers. A week after the Dark King and the Divine Tree tore open space to activate the spiritual tide, outside Misty Mountain, the world began to stir. Cracks appeared in many other places, beginning to pour down omnipotent spiritual power. Sometimes in the desert, sometimes in the jungle, a city suddenly had a crack in the sky, and the omnipotent spiritual power of the spiritual tide poured down. Sometimes the crack appeared on the sea. The people in that city enjoyed it for a while. Then the exotic beasts around started to creep in. They also wanted to absorb this precious stream of spiritual power. Indeed, a city outside the control of the Divine Tree would not be safe during this time. All creatures wanted to have the opportunity to grow strong through the spiritual tide. They would not hesitate to risk their lives and rob a place for themselves. Some cities even witnessed a giant stone golem thousands of meters high appearing and wandering around, causing countless damage to humans. Is this a Titan species? And so, wherever a crack appeared, there was war, endless killing. Even at this time, the human powerhouses, fascinated by the omnipotent spiritual power, had lost their human nature, becoming as cruel and brutal as demons, ready to exterminate their own kind to monopolize the crack. The whole planet was shaken by countless wars, chaos everywhere, just like a world war. In a city in the China Federation, the sunset was covering a construction project. Perhaps this city had enjoyed peace for a long time, and people had their stable lives. The buildings continued to rise to welcome the new waves of immigrants. The chairman was looking out the window, silently lost in thought. In front of him was a huge space crack, strands of golden spiritual power pouring down to the ground. This chairman was one of the most influential people in the China Federation, even had the power to coordinate all the powerhouses of the Federation, but in the face of this chaos, even if he had a crack in his hand, he could not be happy. In the city where Linger is in charge, right? Her subordinates are also enjoying a huge space crack. Oops, wrong. The leader of this gene-modified group is a vampire who has gone to seize a crack. Indeed, he is a rogue. It seems that the reptiles behind are being attacked while they are in a daze enjoying the spiritual power, and they die without closing their eyes. In the 10 Nations Alliance, the saint of the sect was waving his staff and preaching under the light of infinite spiritual power in front of millions of his believers. Yes, as soon as he discovered the crack, he summoned all the believers to enjoy it. This saint believed that this was the grace of God bestowed upon them. He spread his arms as if representing God and began to bestow power on his obedient sheep. Meanwhile, the two ambassadors of the Divine Tree showed an unhappy face. They didn't like this saint, or rather, he was going against the interests of the Divine Tree. Wherever a crack appeared, the leader there immediately ordered a blockade. They needed to ensure the highest level of security. A powerhouse with experience knew one thing. The spiritual tide always brought a tide of monsters. Opportunity always came with challenges, didn't it? The fissure continued to appear, starting with the sound of shattering glass, then easily attracting all creatures with its warm and provocative breath. A brilliant light radiated, visible from tens of kilometers away. This was the fissure at Misty Mountain. It had been over a week now. The divine tree released its spiritual power, wandering everywhere, discovering that many fissures had appeared. Indeed, nature always has its way of bestowing special grace, but fortunately, the divine tree had detected the spiritual tide early and let his subordinates feast on it a week earlier. How much spiritual power they had absorbed, only heaven knows. The divine tree truly released its spiritual power for another round. The time for the spiritual power to return this time seemed a bit longer. Damn it! The divine tree looked down at the ground, thinking back to see if it was hallucinating. Because if so, the earth seemed to be expanding too. Was the earth also evolving? Indeed, the earth had been enveloped in the infinite spiritual tide, forming a layer of energy extremely thick, surpassing even the thickness of the atmosphere. With such a dense density, would creatures without the ability to evolve also enter the first process of evolutionary mutation? On the sea, a coal-black dragon was rushing forward, its face downcast, carrying no goodwill at all. Was he going to fight? Indeed, as soon as he flew to a coastal city, he began to roar loudly, "Humans, I am here for revenge." Indeed, the petty nature of this guy never changes, because of his anger at humans for harming him last time, preventing him from advancing to the Fourth Order. This time he had come to take revenge. But why didn't this brother go to the divine tree for revenge? Because even though he was petty, he still wanted to live on. Humans in this city had seen the terrifying dragon in the sky. They were completely stunned. This was a city of the 10 Nations Alliance. They had been peaceful for too long. Not only did they not run, but they also took out their phones to film and photograph this ferocious beast, while it was gathering energy in its mouth ready to launch. The dragon decisively fired its spiritual power, aiming straight at the city. While the obedient crowd stood still watching, they were afraid they would miss the most exciting part. And then, there was no more after that. Everything turned into dust. You must know that this dragon's power had reached the disaster level. No city could survive under its breath. After the dragon had finished its attack, it looked at the scene of destruction with satisfaction, feeling somewhat comforted in its heart. Of course, the one he wanted to hit the most at this moment was the divine tree, but forget it, because that tree was a nightmare. Kangaroo saw this scene. With an emotionless face, he said to the king, "Your Majesty, can you tell that dragon to stop? Did this marsupial rat show compassion for humans? No. He just didn't want to watch a new disciple of the king show off." The Dark King spoke loudly. "No problem, after all. The result for humans is only one, that is extinction." Immediately after that, the divine tree caught the signal of the black dragon's spiritual power. Indeed, under the protection of the Dark King, this dragon had recovered as fast as lightning. The divine tree squinted its eyes. The spiritual power located from the attack just now was on the territory of the countries of Asia and Z, the 2 ambassadors of the divine tree. At this moment, the divine tree could only hope that they were safe. The observation range of the divine tree's spiritual power was now stronger than ever. Everything happening in this world was observed by it. The power of spiritual power had now exceeded 90 million points. The divine tree suddenly roared. Thunder and lightning rose. "Can't wait any longer. Today is the day. I will evolve to the transcendent Fifth Order." Indeed, along with the awakening of the Dark King, the entire Earth was also undergoing huge changes. All creatures would become stronger. The weak would be strongly eliminated by nature. This was the time for the divine tree to evolve, fortunately just in time. The divine tree roared once with determination, "I cannot lose." Then 9 roots began to wriggle, rising to the surface of the ground, causing terrifying tremors. The entire area was shaking. From above, a beam of golden spiritual power shone straight down on the divine tree. Was this the spiritual power of the tide? I don't know either. Then, the divine tree exhaled a breath, The nucleus of the tree had changed color to a strange green-blue. The divine tree squinted its eyes, feeling the change in its body. Then it opened its eyes wide, relaxed its whole body. Numerous cracks opened on the tree trunk to enhance the absorption of the spiritual power of the tide. The branches at this time had changed from red to a shiny golden green. Mutated willow, extraordinary 5th level, evolution points, 50 million, natal talent, endless life level 4, inexhaustible spiritual power, endless vitality seed of vitality level 4, rapidly grow trees from the ground, instantly becoming an ancient forest, moment fixed time. Absolute evolution, power control level 4, special power. Mutated branches level 4, spiritual field level 4, hallucination level 4, willow leaf flying knife level 4, ice and snow storm level 4, mutated tree roots level 4, control of mist level 4, river of earth level 4, blood contract level 4, wooden dragon level 4, minor magical powers. Crystallized flame broken feathers, ice age lightning kill. Summoning of light. Summon a beam of light with devastating penetrating power, big and small Rui, great supernatural power. The 17th session of the 9 Realms of Heaven has been opened, with a territory of 10,000 meters, which can make living creatures survive and replenish spiritual power. Oh, so it has evolved to the 5th order? I didn't expect the evolution from 4th order peak to 5th order to be so fast, haha. End of chapter 206.